Hi, everybody, and welcome. Today, I have a special guest, Jamie-Clare. Jamie is on our team and helps me with social media and educates me on all things tech and millennial. So I'm so excited to have you with us today. Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you, Dr. Neha. I'm so excited to be here.
Okay, you're going to call me Neha.
Yes.
And moving forward, right? I appreciate that's like Southern.
I'm working on it.
Well, I'm so glad to have you here. So I'm going to call you JC, Jamie-Clare. I'll use whatever flavor I feel like in the moment. So tell me, what do you want to talk about? What's on your mind?
So, I feel like all of us in general, globally, are kind of struggling with anxiety in a form that we haven't before. I think you've talked a lot about the trauma, the global trauma that we've experienced. And honestly, I commiserate with that or resonate with that because I actually was diagnosed with PTSD last summer, just following some kind of crazy events in my personal life. And so in working through that, it's kind of like working through an anxiety disorder. At least on my end, it has been. And so I've honestly, as the new year has kind of come around, I'm a contract marketer, so I have my clients in place for the year, and my husband is in a good place with his career. And kind of for the first time, we're starting the new year in a place that feels grounded and in a good, exciting place, a stable place. And so I think for the first time in like 5 years, I feel like I'm not in like survival mode.
Yeah.
So I would just like some advice as to like how to get out of that survival mode, because I think in some ways I'm still in a hurry, or like getting out of bed in the morning still feels intimidating some days. But I don't know, there's no reason for it to be intimidating. Like I am in a great place, and so I would I would just like to talk through how to get into a good place when the bed is so warm in the morning and life feels really intimidating. How to get out of that headspace and to get to my best self, my most authentic self, instead of living from a place of anxiety or a place of stress, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the first thing you want to do is you want to thank it. Thank all that ability inside of you to push through all of that survival and, end up in this place that you're almost unfamiliar with. That's what it sounds like. Like you're
It
like,
feels
I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do it where I'm not strung out, right?
like I'm working out every day for fun. Like, who am I? Like, this is weird.
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of incredible to just kind of take a pause, reflect on it, and see how far you've come.
Yeah.
Right. Because new challenges will arise from this space of if you let your guard down, if what if you just enjoyed, what if you got to really start enjoying and creating, these amazing experiences online for your clients and all of this. I mean, it's like, what if it could be fun and easy? Right? What would that feel like?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. And so I think it starts with body wisdom, really. And when the outside world feels so hard and we're trying to make ends meet, it's pretty easy to get stuck in overdrive, that revved up state that's hyper vigilant and, always feels behind. Sometimes people even use that as a way to motivate themselves almost. And when they don't have that, it feels like, like why? Like what? Right. And I think in those moments, you go to something greater than survival, almost like you're elevating to the next level, which is purpose.
Right.
And it's your commitment to creating something good in the world that makes a difference, that matters, that changes people's lives, that pulls you from your world of dreaming to your world of doing. Right. And so that transition from a warm, cozy bed into the world is driven usually by the excitement to create something. And so I think I'd say let's go back to your anxiety. And I think what's really brilliant is you're realizing it's not your current reality. And so for a while it was.
Yeah, for a minute there. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there's a moment where, you transition from school or being with your parents to living on your own, right? And it's almost like jumping on a treadmill that's going too fast, right? It's like, whoa, there's so many things here. Like, how's this all going to work? And then when you do that for a while, it's that adaptation phase where you really start running that way and then training your neuronal pathways, your biology, that this is who I am and this is the state it will take to get us where we're going. And I think it is a transition period now, but let's go back to your anxiety. So tell me, what are the thoughts that most typically run through your mind that rev up that anxiety?
Probably either fear of inadequacy or fear of failure.
Mhm.
Definitely fear of conflict or fear of disappointing someone. So people
Mhm.
pleaser. Not, I'm working on it. I don't want to be a people pleaser. Um,
And
so
so in your
those,
life, tell me how that showed up. Show me, bring me back to the younger you. Who were you trying to please? And what was going on that you learned that so well?
I grew up with three brothers and I'm the only girl. Well, obviously.
And
So
are they older than you?
I have two older and then one that's 5 years younger than I am.
Uh-huh.
So we were a really tight-knit family growing up. But I don't, have you ever heard of the book, The Highly Sensitive Person
Mhm.
by Elaine Aron, Dr. Elaine Aron? Fantastic book for me personally. And I just find myself a lot in the highly sensitive person category in terms of I absorb the feelings of those around me. I take on their burdens as my own. Um, Not even necessarily in a people pleaser sense, but just in I care deeply about their feelings and it matters. Like when I'm in a room, I notice if someone feels uncomfortable. I notice that very readily, very suddenly, and I pick up on emotions and things like that. And so I think in a large family, when you begin to cater to, um, or not cater to, but serve other people's needs, which is wonderful and in some ways a good thing. Um, Sometimes I feel like maybe I did that too often and forgot that I had needs too, and forgot to say no sometimes. And so
Mhm.
probably that's where the need to have someone's approval started.
Yeah, and you got a lot of practice because there wasn't just one, right? There were three other siblings and there were parents and all of
Yes.
that. So you have great awareness about where this all starts and also about your own you call it highly sensitive person. I would say that means you're incredibly intuitive. The part about you you're picking up on your environment when you're little, in order to get your own needs met, you your success at how quickly your diaper gets changed is due in part to how well you can influence others, make them smile, cry, let them know something's wrong, right? Your entire dependence depends on your ability to influence others. And you learn very quickly as a child what makes people laugh, what brings them sooner, what, right? Like how to get your needs met. But you do it in relation to the adults around you.
Mm-hmm.
And so growing up, it's a pretty instant experience when we become these souls on earth, that our survival and our comfort is dependent on our ability to understand what motivates other people.
Right.
And so we learn that. And then when you're really sensitive, and you pick up on your environment, that's such a great thing, except you still haven't individuated and become your own being, right? And oftentimes people go through their whole family lives with blurred family boundaries and not really knowing where they end and another person begins, right? It's all about keeping the peace. It's all about what would happen in your family with conflict.
In my family.
Mhm. So conflict shows up. What happens?
Oh yeah, conflict does show up.
People do
My
people blow up? Do they ignore it? Do they what happened? Do
so
things break?
no, oh gosh, no. But my mom would make us, if it was the siblings, my mom would make us sit at the table and we had to talk it out and figure it out, basically. And she would moderate. Um, or if it was like a private conversation with mom and dad, I'm just a naturally loud person, expressive. And so I probably raised my voice, but not, we never screamed or yelled at each other. No. So
Okay.
dealing with
But it
conflict is
was
always a good experience, like in terms of everybody's going to come to the table, literally and figuratively, to solve the problem. Um, but
and
at
what
the
about
same
your dad?
time, I struggle with like when we get to the end and it's like we don't agree, but like I I still have to respect your opinion, but like I think you're wrong. So I
Yeah.
think
And so tell me a time then where you have disappointed yourself, disappointed someone else, not come to like conflict has not been a good experience for you.
so once upon a time when I started dating my husband, I had three very protective brothers who weren't sure they were fans at first. Now everybody absolutely adores each other and it's a wonderful family experience. But at the time, so 7 years ago, um, it was difficult to know that I had found my better half looking at this other person, knowing this other person, and not have my family accept and adore that person right off the bat when my family is very accepting in general. They're just loving and kind of take in strays. We fostered some kids and we had like foreign exchange students every summer. And so anyway, my family is very accepting and loving. And so it was just a very weird experience for me to have to kind of individuate, like you said, and stand on my own 2 feet and say, like, well, this is the life I imagined for myself. And so I'm going to choose it. And then, um, yeah, I guess to kind of say, like, well, you experienced him this way, but like, that's not what I saw. And be able to say what I saw and stand on my own opinion that was like the only time that comes to mind off the top of my head that was like really hard to say what was on my mind, even though I knew it wasn't going to be popular.
Yeah. Well, I have a feeling your mom raised you for that moment. You're coming to the table, sitting down, talking it out, figuring it out, and being able to disagree at the end, but agree to disagree.
Right.
And in that place, the vision you had and the emotion and the connection you had for your partnership was strong enough that it could withstand that discord.
Yeah.
And I think you also know your brothers, you know they want the best for you, you know that your family loves you. And family is, I can hear in you that family is core for you, right? And
Yes.
the discord there felt like the biggest, vibration of, conflict, etc. What are you afraid of? Like, what if you fail? So what if you fail? What if um, you don't measure up? What if you disappoint someone else? Then what's going to happen? What then?
Well, I've experienced that before. So,
Okay.
um, this was my second job out of college, so 5 years, 6 years ago. Um, and I worked at this wonderful place. It was a manufacturer, textile manufacturer, but the person who hired me was only my boss for about 5 or 6 months. And then someone else was given the role, and it was a woman. And I don't, all of the people in the department were women, and she was the woman. And there was just some like looking over shoulders, micromanagement, and kind of anxiety inducing, really stressful things. And I thought for 12 months that I was crazy. And
Yeah.
then in those last 6 months, I was reading a book called Safe People by Dr. Cloud and Dr. Townsend.
Mhm.
Uh, and in those pages, I found my boss.
Oh,
And I
wow.
was like, oh, I'm not nuts. Like, this
Yeah.
is what's going on. And so I started to notice some patterns in myself too that were unhealthy. And so thankfully, my husband got a different job. And so naturally we moved.
Yep.
Um, it was a natural transition away from that job, and I was really grateful. And now I've been in contract marketing and love it, but it does feel very high stakes. People looking to me for answers, and I don't want to disappoint people, but at the same time, like my vision to create meaningful content, I have such a passion for that, and I know that I'm really good at it. So I step into
Yeah.
that space, even though I tremble. If
Yeah,
that makes
and that's the key, right? That your vision and your purpose to know you're using your gifts, your skill sets,
sense.
right, to meet a need of the world. And that draw, that feeling, that energy, that alignment, as long as that's greater than your fear, you will always move forward,
Yeah.
right? And the idea that that will transition over time,
Yeah.
that it might look a little bit different, evolve a little bit more, just like you were saying, meaningful content. What's meaningful to someone in their 20s is different than what's meaningful to someone in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, right? If I ask someone, that's 0 to 10, what do you want? They're like, candy, more sugar, to play with my friend, to stay up late, to watch the iPad, whatever it is that they want. I talk to someone 10, 11 to 20, and I say, what do you want? And they say, to be cool with my friends, to date someone I like, to be perceived as hot, to have the most likes on Instagram, whatever it is, right? Then somebody's in their 20s and it's like, oh, to be on my own 2 feet, to, find my path, in their 30s, it's like to build a family, and whatever version of that it looks like. 40s, to be successful in my career,
Mm.
50s, thinking about legacy. How am I going to leave something to the world that's of meaning and matter? 60s, grandparents. It's all about my kids and giving back and telling the stories and mentoring and the teaching and the lessons. And then it becomes about health
Mhm.
and about their declining health and staying strong and flexible and out of a nursing home, right? And so that's just a basic, across decades things change. So too will your purpose change.
Mm.
and evolve with you. And I think the idea that you get really clear that you're not just a content marketer, you're a content marketer for meaningful material. You seem to really love learning
Yeah.
and taking on responsibility. Like if I tell you, oh, Jamie-Clare, I have people that can help you do XYZ, your first answer to me is, let me see if I can figure out how to do it myself. So there's an independence in you, right? Which is great. There's this desire not just to market content, but to market meaningful content,
Mhm.
right? And those moments, in bed, when you doubt yourself or it feels really warm and cozy here, right? It's only going to be a connection to being a better version of you, a more purposeful, like helping other people, a more purposeful endeavor that would get you moving consistently, right? A deep connection to that.